Joseph Stanislaw, aka Jersey Joe, is here to talk about Dawson Mercer's contract, some young guys we should keep an eye out for going into training camp, and also his opinions on some of the divisional rivals for the New Jersey Devils. There's so much to unpack that we had to split it up into a two-part episode. Buckle up, it's part one of two with Jersey Joe.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils Wire for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. Joining me on today's show before he embarks on his couple-week vacation to Europe is an associate of mine, and also at this point should be my co-host, Joseph Stanislaw, aka Jersey Joe, my colleague over at Pucks and Pitchforks. Jersey Joe, like I said, you're about to leave for Europe at the time of recording tomorrow, and we won't see you for a while, but just wanted to catch up before you cross the pond.
Yeah, so I will be on vacation for 12 days. Italy is going to be the destination for the NHL in 2026, except it's going to be in the northern part. I'm going to be in the southeast. In case anyone asked the question, where is it going to be held for Winter Olympics in 2026? Milan.
Absolutely, and it's going to take you a minute when you come back to the States to get accustomed to the time zone, because it's an adjusting period from West Coast to East Coast, at least for me. So it's going to be a minute. So we won't see you for about a month or so. But we just wanted to get your thoughts heading into the season. But let's begin with the elephant in the room, which is Dawson Mercer. I've done a couple episodes surrounding Dawson Mercer and what his contract might look like, what's the holdup. The thing is, it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when will a deal get done, because he doesn't hold that much leverage because he has no arbitration rights and he had career lows in a lot of statistical categories. Not to mention he's a restricted free agent. I guess it's just taking a lot longer than people, including myself, have anticipated.
Well, when it comes to RFA stuff, it's usually the agent trying to jockey between the GM of that parent team. So the agent's trying to leverage as much as he can possibly can for that much leverage at all. So in that case, they're trying to get to a middle ground. But I was looking at James Nichols' article, and he was using AFP analytics saying $3.9 million roughly was the projection for Mercer. I disagree with it, because not with James. I mean the analytics part. Mm-hmm. Me looking at Mercer, he already plays 82 games a season, but he started off hot, going from 40-some points to 56 points. And then last year, he got snake bitten at 33 points. What I project him to hit is $2.5 to $2.8 million minimum, maybe 3.2 as the middle. So it has to be within the realm of the salary cap. I know Tom Fitzgerald has the old Boston Bruins effect. Leave a little on the table, leave for the other to reallocate to other players. Try and better your team.
Right. How many years do you think it's going to be? Because I saw that article, and it's about 4 years, anywhere from 2 to 4 years. How long do you think they should sign Dawson Mercer for?
I would say as long as 3 years. I mean, 2 is a little too quick. 4 is a little bit too long, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of performance bonuses included. That's just me, because Mercer is a really big performer. When you look at not just on the forechecking, when it's 5v5, 4v4, but he's really good out there on the face-offs. He's really good in the penalty kill. He's there on the power play. He may not be the biggest shooter, but he's the biggest playmaker. So guys like him stand out in the more refined details on the ice, get into the dirty areas for guys like a Jack Hughes or a Nico Hischier or an Eric Holla, depending on whose line they're setting up.
I would say for me, you have to sign Dawson Mercer to a 3-year extension because here's what also you need to factor in. Luke Hughes is going to need a new contract at the conclusion of this year. And if the projections are correct, that kid is going to get paid, and rightfully so. Then your boy, Shimo Nemitz, is going to need a new deal sooner rather than later. Not this upcoming season, but after next season. You have to factor that in, and also a few other players that might need new contracts, like filler pieces, and the Devils might become buyers at the deadline. Who will be available? Who will they have to give up to get that said player? There's so many moving parts to this, and I think for Tom Fitzgerald, he looks at everything as an investment. That's why he signed Jack Hughes to that cheap deal, or he took a playbook out of Ray Shero's book, which is try to sign players with the most promise to lengthy extensions, but at a very cheap clip. That's what happened with Nico Hischier. Timo Meier, regardless of what anyone wants to believe, if the Devils didn't give him that money, you can best believe he could go to another team and they will give him even more.
Right.
Same with Jesper Bratt. And I think that's what Tom Fitzgerald is trying to do, which is, hey, why don't you sign for this amount of years so that way you're with the team, and maybe Dawson's like, look, I know I had a down year, but just give me like a 1 or 2 year extension so that way I can make some more money once that contract runs out. But once again, you got to think of other players that are going to need new deals.
And that's why I said reallocate a little extra money to other players near and shorter term. Now, when I mentioned the next 2 years, you got to factor in guys like Brendan Dillon, to fill in for Anton Salayev's development when Salayev is ready. You don't want to be over calibrated with so many defensemen that you might have to move one guy in one off season and then rely on the next guy the next season. You want to have everyone cook around the same time, if not too far apart, so that way you have each cookie coming off the cookie sheet tray simultaneously, but not all at once. So you don't want to undercook your cookies, if you want to think of it that way.
Before we continue with today's discussion with Jersey Joe, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. You've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, I have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook, visit FanDuel.com to also look at the odds, and please remember to always gamble responsibly. All right, let's get back to our discussion with Jersey Joe. Take it away once again. That is an interesting analogy. You're never short on that, are you?
Well, it's a way of wisdom, and it's a way of not overdoing a perspective. Like I always say, moderation is a good thing, but going with too many cookies in a cookie jar is a bad thing. It's not going to end up good for you in the short term.
No. So let me just get your thoughts heading into the season, because I had you on this show back in July to reflect on what went wrong for the Devils. But let's be a little bit more positive. We're a few weeks away from everything taking place next month. Similar to you, the Devils will travel across the pond to Prague to open up their season. The home opener will be against the Toronto Maple Leafs a few days after that. What are your thoughts heading into the season in general?
Well, looking at the team on paper, they look more seasoned on defense, much grittier, much more sound. I like that McGill is still the defense coach, and I know he's done wonders in Vegas. Last year was a down year for the guy, but the thing is, you also had guys like Kevin Ball who weren't fine-tuned, or it was Luke Hughes cutting his teeth for the first time. So there was a lot of things. I mean, Shimon Nemeth was like the one young guy that actually had some sort of experience. So going into the season, I like what we got. Like Pesci and Dylan are there to help ease the weight off of Dougie Hamilton's back and not overwork Shimon Nemeth, which is beautiful. Brendan Dillon, left-handed defenseman, big guy, hits hard, blocks hard. You need those Sasquatches on the second, third line as well as a first line. You need to have guys like Santeri Hataka on the cheaper contracts who can do similar, if not better, than a Brendan Dillon at a younger age. So that gives you more leverage. You have someone like a Daniel Misule in the pipeline. He can come up from a Utica on a moment's notice, being offensive and defensive style. And you just got Jakob Zaboril on the PTO. He's not too much of a standout, but he's physical. He does block shots. He is rather mobile for a veteran. So he might be one of those guys that wins a spot on this team and does a lot of wonders that no one really thinks about. Michael Hutchinson, I'm not sure if he will make it out of camp, but given the fact that we have so many good goalies, young guys, maybe Hutchinson does get a contract or doesn't, but it's worth giving him a shot for a veteran who can be a wonderful backup. I checked his numbers this morning. Okay, he's a good starter, but better backup.
We'll see what happens, but I know you know more about the young guys than I do, so I will take your word for it. But Misule, he's been impressing a lot of people because I've been seeing reporters like Amanda Stein tweet about him, some of his highlights, things like that. I think people like James Nichols have been releasing articles on him. I've had James on this show in the past to talk about Misule, all that. Can you go into a little bit more detail about some maybe other young guys that the Devils should keep their eyes out for, or maybe just fans in general? Because like I said, this is your expertise. This is your wheelhouse. This is your bread and butter.
Right. Well, first off, I mean, Chase Cheslock is at NCAA D1 level this year for first full year since being promoted from the USHL. So he's a big, tall, right-handed defenseman. He can definitely shoot the puck, but he can also play physical defensively. Yeah, he had a little hard transition time going on from, I think it was either Lincoln or Omaha, but he left a very bad team going into a really more competitive D1 environment. So he's going to be someone that will impress you as he develops. Like, he can really shoot the puck, but he defends.
Similar to Miss Yule, Cheslock has been popping up on a few tweets from the Devil's discourse.
Yeah, and there's a reason for it because he has a lot of size. His frame reminds me of Miller, and he definitely plays a similar game. Not exactly the biggest body banger, but he does take care of the D zone. So he has gotten a beat a little bit more at D1 level, but more he plays with repetitions, he's only going to get better. And you can always transfer in the transfer portal in D1 college hockey. So there's that part. We all might have talked a little about Mikhail Yegorov, but him going to BU is going to be a wonderful thing for him and his development going forward. Like, he's going to be learning from Jay Pandolfo as his head coach, and I can see the defense in front of him make it a lot easier than it did with him past season with Omaha Lancers. So him and Viti Luhivaara from Finland, I think he was with Liga, if I remember correctly. He was really good in that, good positioning. He needs to work a little bit on his tracking, but he's got really good stick work, puck handling. I wouldn't be surprised after the next season, Jakob Malik leaves Finland to come to Utica or join the Devils, depending on the Jake Allen situation. So those are a couple of guys I kept my eyes on. Barbosha in Russia, uh, right-handed defenseman, big guy, not the most mobile, but he is a good stay-at-home defender. So he, like Daniil Orlov, the left-handed defenseman, he's the special kind of guy that will be more physical and just like keep pucks out. No one can mess with him. So I can see those younger guys move up. Gritsyuk, one more season left. Once he finishes this season in the KHL, he can come over, no problem. So there is something like that with a pipeline.
But the Devils' main priority is to compete. So I don't think many of the young guys will be given a fair shake of things, just because it's like the priorities have shifted for New Jersey, if we're being completely honest.
Right. Well, at the same time, John Bailey wrote an article about Nikita Hotuk. Every year he wanted to leave to go back to Russia. It's one of the reasons why he was included to go to San Jose. Neither team wanted him to go, but Calgary took the last risk, and they got burnt with the Hotuk going back to Russia. So anything can happen.
There's a name I haven't heard in a while. I know you were big on Hoytuk a few years ago, actually.
One of the things that's hard about scouting is that if you can't interview the player and you can't reach out to the coach, it's hard to understand what is the player thinking about behind the game,
right,
and away from the game.
Because I experienced that firsthand with Anton Salayev when he was first drafted by the Devils. He had to have a translator with him because he spoke very little English.
I mean, he is a very well-rounded player. I mean, the way he skates is effortless. Even when he gets knocked down, he can still control the puck. And there was a beautiful goal.
We saw, I was about to mention that. I saw that goal make its way on Twitter once again, and people were just raving about the fact that Salayev, 6'7", would be the tallest player on the Devils roster, and yet he's skating like he's a forward.
Like I said before, when he was drafted, like these kids who are, Russian skaters learned a lot from the old Soviet playbook, which was they took a play out of chess, ballet, and there's a documentary behind it. You can look it up later. It was a great documentary on how the Russian hockey club was started with those tactics, and it's still used to this day. And that's one of the things I thought about when I saw Salayev. It reminds me a bit of the Red Army hockey documentary by Gabe Polsky.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah, I recommend any hockey fan to watch that, to be like, why does Jersey Joe always hype up certain Russian players? When you watch these things from past hockey events, you can see it's still being taught by Larionov, who is the coach for Anton Salayev's team. And rest in peace to Mr. Bure, the brother of Pavel Bure, the former Devils staff member, passed away. So my condolences out to his family.
Right. And now I think this is the perfect transition to something you wanted to bring up. The passing of Johnny and Matthew Goodrow. I had Brian Hedger on the show a few days ago to reflect on the impact that Johnny has had in Columbus. But as we all know, the Goodrows grew up in South Jersey, both of them growing up Flyers fans. We know the impact that they've had on hockey, Hollydale, Ice Arena. And I will give you the floor to share your thoughts on Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Gaudreau, and the unspeakable tragedy.
Well, for quite a long time as Jersey Joe, I always want to see uh, New Jersey born, raised, or even just players that play here, grow here, to succeed, not only at the NHL level, but at the professional level in many ways. And we lost our own Wayne Gretzky to a horrible, horrible accident, if not a terrible one that could have been prevented by the person who did it themselves.
I
And
think this goes out to anyone. Get an Uber, get a Lyft,
get an Uber, get a Lyft, get a
ask
taxi.
someone to give you. It's not worth it. If
No,
if you are intoxicated behind the wheel, don't drive.
it's the dumbest thing you can do. Uh, my my heart goes out to the Goudreau family. Um, I really love watching Johnny over the years, and I really wanted him to be a double, but you know what? He's a New Jerseyan. He's our Wayne Gretzky in this state. And I said to New Jersey sports fan account, um, I said to him, we lost our Gretzky, but you know what? Down the road, someone in New Jersey is gonna one day aim for his points totals in the NHL. There's a lot of great athletic talent in our state that will look up to the Goudreau boys and be like, Jim Dowd set the tone for us. Bobby Ryan did it. Um, just to name Trevor Van Riemsdyk and James Van Riemsdyk, those guys set the bar. The Goudreaus set the bar even higher. And now the current crop of NJ hockey talent now has a idol forever to be remembered, to look up to in the Garden State of hockey.
Absolutely. And it's important to discuss it. And even if the player didn't grow up in New Jersey, still in the area of the example I'm giving is Brett Pesci. He's not from New Jersey. He played on a team in Jersey during his upbringing, but he's originally from New York. But just the impact on East Coast hockey in general, I think speaks volume for what Johnny Gaudreau has meant. And like you said, that a lot of people who grew up playing hockey in New Jersey, their idol is Johnny Gaudreau. And not only that, but Johnny Gaudreau was notoriously known for being a little guy. He's not a big guy, but yet he could still bob it and weave through traffic with the best of them, wrap around shots, whatever the case might be. Johnny Gaudreau knew how to dominate and not let his size or stature get in the way of him.
And you know what? Anytime I watch Johnny hockey on just highlights alone, he could dangle a little bit like Datsuk. He could shoot the puck flawlessly like Matthews. He just had that desire to be a difference maker, no matter if he was in Calgary or Team USA, Boston College, or even playing for Columbus. I mean, yeah, he did have a down year in Columbus, but you know what? He was doing his best to be a team player, and the kind of guy he was off the ice, he gave back to places like Calgary and Columbus. And it's hard to lose such an ambassador.
Absolutely. And there's not, and it's just hard to articulate. It's just really hard to, I guess, like come to grips with reality that this did happen. It's really hard. And similar to what Brian Hedger told me, it's not really going to hit the media out in Columbus until they do their media availabilities and see that Johnny Gaudreau's not there, or when they're doing their post-game scrum and they see that his locker is not there. That's when it's gonna really hit them, or when they're doing their lineup projections and he's not there. That's when it's gonna hit them. And we're gonna have to leave it there for today's episode. My apologies for leaving it on a sad note. Our thoughts, heart, and prayers continue to go out to the Gaudreau family in their time of healing. Jersey Joe made it a point of emphasis that he wanted to talk about it while he was joining me on today's episode. Part 2 will be published momentarily, as we're going to talk about some of the divisional rivals for the Devils and how they stack up. Where are the Devils going to finish in the Metro, according to Jersey Joe? Stick around for part 2. But like I do to close out every episode, continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.